recap, this is the first of a series of gaming monitor videos I'll be doing, and I have a treat for you today. We got two monitors to review from Samsung, the Odyssey G7 and the Neo G7, both 32-inch. These are primarily gaming monitors, of course, but surprisingly, one of these has a nice smart feature that could make it a better value for money for you. I'm Alex and I do down-to-earth tech videos. There's obviously a difference as well in price and features, but we'll cover those details throughout the video. This here is the 32-inch Odyssey G7 4K monitor. It's a flat IPS panel with 144 Hz and the advertised response time of 1 millisecond. It's got an Ultra HD resolution of 3840 by 2160, supporting display HDR 400. And this one here, which you can see behind me, is the Odyssey Neo G7 4K monitor with Quantum Mini LED technology from Samsung, another absolute beast of a monitor, and some might say even better than the Neo G8. I appreciate that these models vary depending on where you are. I'm putting the exact model number here for you on the screen for both monitors. Right, starting with this curved one, and hey, this bad boy is not messing around. With a refresh rate of 165 Hz and 1 millisecond response time, you can really push this thing. I've recently built this massively overpowered gaming PC with the most powerful processing graphic cards as well that money can buy. This curved model here has HDR 2000 and two HDMI 2.1 ports, which is great. And going beyond just the spec sheet, right, this is fantastic for gaming. And before I go on, a little disclaimer here. I've used a lot of monitors and I know a little bit about the technology behind them, but I haven't reviewed every single monitor out there. I have been using the Alienware 34DW, whatever, one of the best gaming monitors out there. There's an OLED monitor as well. I will review that in a separate video, but you know, there are dedicated channels for monitor reviews with all the benchmarks that you can think of. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to be an expert all of a sudden, right? I've used professional monitors for work before and I've used plenty of budget options as well. But ultimately, this is coming primarily from, you know, a consumer's perspective and from someone who really enjoys gaming, you know, in creative work as well, more than anything else. Right, let's talk about this curve. After all, that is the main feature of this display, right? This 1000R curvature, not gonna lie to you, it's aggressive. You know, I've never seen anything like this. It's hard to demonstrate here on video, and you have to be sat in front of it really to really appreciate it. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm just gonna turn this brightness down a little bit because I can see it's being overexposed on the camera. Yeah, okay. That's it. It's 50% now, it's a little bit better. But anyway, this curvature, right, it tries to fill your peripheral vision, giving you this kind of incredible immersiveness. I hate this word. You know what I mean though, right? It makes you feel like you're really in the game. As I said, I've been using the OLED 34-inch from Alienware. Fantastic monitor as well, and I love that ultra-wide aspect ratio, but I don't know, there's a lot to be said I think for this aspect ratio here, the 16:9, and if you want, you can go actually ultra-wide as well in a gaming view, which will give you that 21:9 aspect ratio, but you know, you can then in a game set it up so that you have a bigger field of view, but the compromise of course is that you would see the black bars at the top and bottom. I'm still getting used to it to be honest, but I do prefer this full screen mode in 16:9 and this curvature, as I keep saying, right, I don't know what it is, but for me, it's just really satisfying depending on the game that I'm playing. Samsung says that this 1000R curvature mimics the curvature of our eyes. I don't know, maybe that's why I'm enjoying it so much. Now, this is a VA monitor, which I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail, but technically it means that it's just a different way of aligning the crystals behind the panel here, right? I'll stop there because it's already too technical even for me. What that used to mean is that you get quite a bit of smearing on the screen and blurriness, you know, depending on the scenes or the games that you're playing. Well, those days are gone it seems, right? We're getting excellent contrast here. I mean, unbelievable contrast, which is to be expected, right? It's being sold as an HDR monitor. And to be fair, high contrast has always been an advantage on VA panels anyway, but here we're getting very little motion issues, if any. And I think that's probably because of that high refresh rate as well, right? Either that or I'm not that sensitive to that sort of thing. I tried to pause and freeze some of the frames here so you can take a look for yourself. And this little alien thing here is probably as far as I'll go in terms of benchmarking. And talking about refresh rate, I know that 165 Hz these days, which is nuts to me, is not the highest refresh rate out there anyway, but honestly, this feels so smooth, right? No ghosting or anything like that on this display. At least I haven't experienced that in any of the games that I've been playing. My graphic cards, as I said, is really pushing this thing, and even though I'm running a 4090 RTX card, in some of the games like Call of Duty with all set to extreme, it goes way past 120 FPS consistently, which at 4K is unbelievable. My eyes are like, wow, what is this? It's pure eye candy. but I haven't seen it reach like 165 yet. I think, you know, I saw a couple of times spike to 140, 145. Yes, you could go for a 240 Hz display. That's my next video, by the way. But really think about what games and what graphic cards you're gonna need to get the output. The games I enjoy the most are shooter games and racing games. I do play other games as well, as you see here, but this monitor to me feels like it was made for these kind of first-person shooting games. Call of Duty on this is amazing. Destiny 2, absolutely superb. You know, HDR really comes to life in this game. Although I did pair this with a fairly beefy PC here, I also tried with a mid-range PC that my son has. You know, the experience has been great on both setups. You could potentially use this monitor for productivity work, but obviously it really comes to its own when you're gaming. An Excel spreadsheet on this would probably feel quite weird, and I'm not even gonna try it. Okay, I'll try it. Let's have a look. For a quick bit of work between gaming sessions, you might find this is okay, but I'd say primarily, yeah, I'd use this for gaming really. But it's doable. I know this monitor has been out for a while, but honestly, this picture quality is just incredible. You know, like you probably have, I've been watching a lot of these monitor videos, and now having the real thing in front of me, all I can say is, wow. I mean, YouTube is great, and I'll do my best to reproduce the quality here for you in this video, but to the naked eye, you know, especially when you're kind of so close to the monitor, what you see is so much better. And it does make a big difference when you're at the right distance as well, right? So if you're not sure about this monitor, I'd say go to a store if you can and try to take a look for yourself before buying. Also, another point is, not everyone reviewing these monitors in the past, you know, had the latest graphic cards, right? So I don't think many people have been able to really show the true quality in gaming, because graphic cards and games themselves, you know, needed to catch up a little bit. But I've been able to achieve insane FPS at 4K resolution in some of the, you know, kind of high intensity games as well. I've been using a lot of curved monitors and ultra-wide monitors too for work, but I gotta say, this here takes it to a different level of immersion, you know? That bloody word again, sorry.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No, I didn't get it either. But I think it's to do with the technology that Samsung are using here. You know, this mini LED setup, which Samsung is calling Quantum Mini LED and Quantum HDR 2000, is basically translating into a superb kind of depth and, you know, excellent picture quality. It does have 1200 local dimming zones. I'm not just reading the spec sheet, by the way. This is important because some companies will try to sell a HDR display, but then only have edge lit dimming zones. And you're not going to get this level of contrast, right? It's going to be good, but not this good. And this has the highest 12-bit black levels as well. I mean, the picture quality on this is next level. I'm also showing you some footage in the dark so that you have an idea for what it's like in the dark as well. Of course, it will be sublime in the dark, but as you can see, it's absolutely insane already, even during the day. From a specs perspective, it's delivering 2000 nits in peak brightness. Now, I've seen people actually go further than I do and kind of do the proper testing, and yes, they were able to achieve 2000 nits in their tests, actually even higher in one of the videos that I've seen, but only in a small area of the monitor. In this one test that I've seen, the guy was able to achieve like 1200 nits consistently, which, let me tell you, is very bright. I mean, just beware though, out of the box, it comes quite dimmed to like 50%, I think. So the first thing I did was, you know, whack the brightness up to 100, but all I can say is, it's pretty damn bright, even if it's just 1200 nits in reality. When playing some games, I had to stop and look at the scenery because it's just amazing to look at. In games that have like ray tracing and HDR, and you can really see the difference, and this is where this monitor shines really. It supports AMD Freesync Premium Pro, and with that 1 millisecond response time, you know, it makes this an awesome display for gaming. It makes even noobs like me look half decent in front of these sweaty teenagers out there, right? My graphics card, like I said, is a 4090 RTX, so I really like pushing everything to the max on this PC, and paired with this monitor, everything just looks impeccable. Whether you have AMD or an Nvidia based card like I do, this monitor can handle it. I just didn't notice any stutters or any kind of screen tearing situations at all, even in the most fast-paced games. I did have an issue with Hogwarts, you know, the Harry Potter game, but it turned out to be a graphics card issue, which did get solved with a firmware upgrade on the card itself, nothing to do with the monitor. When it comes to ergonomics and convenience, this is such a flexible monitor as well. You can swivel it, tilt it, and even pivot it if you want to, which is crazy at this curvature, but maybe there's someone out there who would like to use it like this. I'm not sure for me. Oh, and of course you can adjust the height as well to suit your setup. I've got it on a stand here because it's on a desk that I move a lot, and you know, I'm always trying different monitors as well, so I'm gonna leave it on the stand, but it is fully compatible with VESA mounts. So if you want to put this on a monitor arm, you should have no issues with that. Super convenient. Talking about convenience, right, one of the most annoying things is, with any monitor is switching between devices, right? If you've got like a Mac or a PC or a laptop and then a gaming console. In a lot of Samsung monitors now, we're starting to see this feature called AutoSource Switch Plus, I think, which means as you power on a second device, the monitor will switch to that instantly. You can turn that off if you want to as well, but I think that's a really useful feature. So you can have your gaming PC or your laptop or something like a PlayStation 5 in my case and switch between those very quickly. I talked about all the things that I like about this monitor so far, but what about the things that I don't like? Actually, just before I forget, if you enjoyed this video so far, a thumbs up goes a long way. It really helps me getting the channel discovered out there. I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe for no reason, right? But I do appreciate also that you have your established channels out there that you already like and subscribe. But after this video, have a look around my channel. And if you do feel like I deserve a sub, then it would be awesome to have you on board. I'm here at least once a week with a new down-to-earth tech video for you, covering all sorts of gadgets and consumer stuff in a down-to-earth sort of way. Right, up until now, it was been all good, right, with this monitor. But I do have a couple of criticisms, one of which is the lack of kind of smart features. And the other one is the fact that there's no remote control for it. The menu is alright, the built-in stuff that's in here is alright to navigate. There's a little button at the bottom here, which is fine. But you have to push a lot of buttons to tweak things depending on the game that you're playing. If you like to really, nail down the settings for a particular type of game, you're gonna be clicking that quite a bit, and I think a remote would be nice. Which is kind of why I wanted to cover not just the Neo G7 curved monitor, but also the G7, the flat one. Also because I appreciate that not everyone's gonna like this curve, right? I love it, and this 1000R curve is very satisfying for me, but that's just me, right? You might prefer a flat monitor. So this one, also 32-inch, apart from it being flat, one of the main differences here is the smart features. I actually bought the M8 smart monitor last year when it came out, which is also a brilliant monitor. It looks pretty much like the Apple monitor. I don't know if you noticed that, it's almost like a carbon copy from a design perspective. But I love it for work, editing videos, photos. It's a 4K monitor as well. I've been amazed at how you don't really need a console for playing games, or indeed a computer. I mean, for casual gaming, right? Let's not get too silly here. Samsung has this gaming hub that comes with this smart features, and all you need basically is a controller. You just plug an Xbox controller into it or something like that, and the monitor, and that's it. That is really cool. I think that's a really nice thing to have. It also comes with some apps, and you can also download more apps. It basically doubles up as a smart TV. It does come with all the latest cloud gaming apps, which is just fantastic, really. Now, let's talk about viewing angles and resolution, right? We talked about what the VA versus IPS difference is earlier, but in this case, there's also the difference between viewing angles. On the curved monitor, of course, everything will look a lot better if you were dead center, not like we are right now. We are at an angle here, but on the flat monitor, it's okay to use even if you are slightly at an angle, no problem there. The G7 has the same resolution as the Neo G7 here at 3840 by 2160, but like the Neo G7 earlier, you can also set it to ultra-wide mode to get the 21:9 aspect ratio instead of the native 16:9. Great if your style of play is to have a kind of a wider field of view. The G7 is very fast too, with an advertised response time of 1 millisecond. When people measured it, it's slightly higher, but it's still like sub 3-4 milliseconds. Amazing. 144 Hz, which some might say is kind of old news now, but for me it's still a decent sweet spot for gaming, as you've seen here, right? Even with the most powerful graphic cards on the market and everything set to extreme, not a lot of games will go past and sustain above 120 FPS, right? In other words, for the majority of people, this monitor will be more than okay for at least a couple more years, I'd say. Being very conservative, it's probably going to be 3-4 years before this becomes, kind of outdated. Like the Neo G7, this has core lighting, which means, you can configure to a color that you want at the back. There's this nice ring with RGB effects, different lighting effects that you can configure, or even match to your gaming experience, so that the most dominant color being shown on the screen is also reflected on your wall. Really cool for me. I've got a black wall, so I'm not really enjoying that too much. But if you've got like a white or a lighter color wall, this will look really cool. Right, playing on consoles like the PS5 here is going to have a slight disadvantage because of that refresh rate is then, it's limited to the HDMI signal. In my case though, I don't play competitively. This has not impacted my gaming experience at all. I've been playing on consoles pretty much all my life, and this is amazing for me. I haven't really tried the speakers on this at any length, but they are okay. Nothing to write home about, right? But if you are watching content like YouTube just at your desk, then the speakers will be okay. They're loud enough. Actually, for a monitor, they are excellent. But if you're trying to watch a movie or play games, of course, then I'd say use an external speaker or headphones. I'm really excited to share with you the 34-inch OLED display that's coming up as well. And while you wait for that, check out these videos over here that YouTube thinks you're gonna like, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.